Hi everyone, I am here today with Paul. Hi Paul, I wonder if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, talking about sort of location of your territory, a bit about when you launched, and a bit about what you did before EweMove.
Yeah, thanks Dan. So Paul Bottomley, I have EweMove in Cleckheaton, so near the sheep pen, and cover all around there. Started up in 2018, so it's that 8 years now. And previous to that, I've been in agency since 1999, so 26 years. And previous to EweMove, I used to have 2 Whitegates offices, local in the area. So yeah, been around a while.
Fantastic. Well, great journey and lots of experience there that we'll be able to pick up on, which is brilliant. So congratulations, you won at the awards at the conference, best appraisal conversion, so highest conversion of appraisers, which is obviously very important for any estate agency business. So what's the journey been like? Was there anything that you changed last year that you think made a difference?
Not massively. I'm a big believer that in this game, people buy people, and I think a lot should go into actually what you do prior to evaluation, prior to actually meeting the client. That can go a long way towards you getting the instruction, and also what you do after the appraisal. So yes, the appraisal is the most important thing, and obviously you need to come across well, and you need to have knowledge is power, I believe, at the end of the day. So know your figures, know your area, know your comparables. But yeah, what a lot of emphasis goes into pre-appraisal and also post-appraisal as well.
That's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I mean, lots of stories over the years, and it sounds like it's the same for you, that a lot of successful appraisal conversion agents feel that a lot of it is down to the work they do before they actually get into the property. What does that process look like for you? Do you have like a standard procedure that you run to, or does that vary?
Yeah, in effect, if a valuation gets booked in online, I will give them a call, more just to try and get to know them, get to know their motivation, not necessarily what they're looking for in the value of the property, but what their motivation is for moving, and just really trying to generate some kind of rapport with them, because I do believe then when you go to the actual valuation, they may have had a couple of other agents out beforehand, but I like to think that they're looking forward to seeing you because of the conversation that they've had. I'll openly admit, you can, and I know a lot of people will go out and put the books through the letterboxes and doors, which are a great thing to do. I don't do that. I'm not saying that I don't do it because I don't believe in it. I should do it. It's like anything, it's time, and I should make more time of that. But there's certainly the rapport that I do before and speaking to them. And I also use the market appraisal toolkit. So I send out the pre-valuation email and text as well prior to the appointment itself.
Okay, excellent. So one of the main things picking up there is about building rapport with the client, and that's something that from day one, when we have new franchisees coming in, it's something that we really talk to them about. It's about the person, focus on the person. A lot of estate agents focus on the property, and you are obviously clearly from your answer all about the person. So when they get there, as you said, hopefully they're excited to see you. The book drop is great, and thanks for appreciating that and saying that it should be done. And time often is the enemy with estate agency, so it's trying to look to find yourself the time to do it. But with that extra, and certainly won't do any harm, but certainly will just keep increasing that before the appraisal contact you're having with the vendor. But certainly, as you mentioned, about building that rapport beforehand so they're excited to see you, super important. So do you feel that that's kind of been embedded for a while? Is there anything that you can put your finger on that you did tweak last year that maybe made a difference, or is it just that continual process and the way that you do things is just continuing to kind of increase your results?
Yeah, look, I tend to think that, so depending on your area and your patch and how prominent you are in that particular area, will depend on whether you've been chosen to go out as their first choice. But let's be honest, sometimes the corporate agents, and I don't know, I don't personally have a shop, so we can be sometimes the second or third agent, or the person that they think, that's something interesting, a little bit different, I'll get them out. I'm not sure I'm going to list with them, because I might go to my big corporate that's down the road on the high street. So I do think that we, as EweMove guys, need to go a little bit further and a little bit beyond in terms of what we do, whether that's on the appraisal itself. So if we talk about the appraisal itself, I will spend, if it's a decent appraisal, a good hour and a half with the client. I know for a fact that some of my competitors, because vendors tell me that they're in and out in 15-20 minutes, don't measure up, have a brief look around, don't find out what the client's motivation is, and leave them a folder or a pack, and go on to the next one. And that's maybe because they might be doing 20-30 valuations a week, and if they miss a few, then it's not the end of the world for them. So I tend to feel that you need to make the client feel special, so spend longer with them, do the pre-valuation stuff, because you might not always be the top of the list for them before you go out, but if you spend the time with them and do the right things on the appointment, you can take yourself quite easily from potentially third on the list before, when they book the valuations, to top of the list when they come to instruct you.
Excellent. So just picking up on that a little bit more as well, just expanding about having a structure. So you talked about sort of, spending an hour and a half or so in a property. So thinking about that, that's, a lot of time. And as you said, a lot of agents, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whether it's because they're busy, as you say, or maybe they're just, not prepared to put that kind of effort in. So what does your appraisal look like? Is there a certain structure you follow, or does it change a little bit each time?
I guess it from doing this job so long like I have, I guess in some respects I've got a certain structure that works. So do I change it up hugely? No, probably not. Am I looking to change it up a little bit? Yes. If I talk about sort of my structure at the moment, how you greeted on the doorstep, so I'm very time conscious. So if I'm going to be 5 minutes late for whatever reason, I will ring or text the client and tell them I'm going to be 5 minutes late, because I think if you turn up 5 or 10 minutes late for traffic lights or just a late have an appointment, straight away you're on the back foot because the vendor's looking at the watch, wondering where you are. So first of all, little things like that. Always make sure that you ask if you want to, when you get in the property, to take your shoes off. I think that's a big thing. I've again feedback from clients. Sometimes I've had agents around who haven't said anything about the shoes and they just walked around in the shoes. Again, little things like that can put you on the back foot. I think my structure would go in terms of sitting down with the client, finding out why they're looking to move, finding out when they're looking to move, more importantly, because that will determine potentially the valuation and the marketing that you put in place. Then I always will ensure they go around the property with me. Again, some agents just say, can I walk around? I don't believe in that, because I think it's that 15 minutes that you're walking around, you can be creating more rapport with the client and finding out things that you've got in common. Walk into a bedroom and it's full of Leeds United stuff. I'm a Bradford City fan, so let's have a laugh about that. And then when you come back down then into the client's living room or dining table, then at that point I will talk majority, probably 75%, 80% will be about what they're looking to do, the property, the move, what price we can get, basically about them and the house. And then I won't spend ages at the end talking about price, fee, packages, We'll go a little bit into it, don't get me wrong, and some vendors are very analytical. Some vendors want to know exactly what you do, you know, and how you're going to charge and what I'm going to get for it. But I never sort of believe that you need to go massively into that. I think you need to spend more time analysing the vendor's needs, and then the cost is a little bit irrelevant. Sorry, one last thing that I would say is I think we as agents, and I can be guilty of this sometimes, I think we get fascinated or fixed up on fees, as in every vendor is judging us on our fee. And we know statistically that that's not the case. Yes, we all want a property, and yes, we need our boards out there. So we've got to be careful, but probably focus a little bit more. I think if you spend an hour and a half there and you focus a lot about them and the property, then you'll get the instruction and you'll get a decent enough fee.
Yeah, what I've tended to find over the years, and clearly coming from you as well, is that whole point of differentiating yourself from the other agents. So I think about the appraisal process and what happens before the appraisal and during the appraisal. If everyone boils down to doing 15 minutes and doesn't really separate themselves from the competition, then I suppose, you know, it's hardly surprising that the owner either ends up making a decision over who's offered the highest price or who's offered the lowest fee, because there's nothing to separate them. I love what you're saying, that actually the fee is a very small part of the conversation tucked away at the end, because they want you by the time you get to the fee, I would have thought. And that's why you're converting so well, amongst lots of other great stuff you're doing, is that you've put them front and center, you've spent time with them, you understand them rather than just focusing on the property. You've obviously explained everything you do and how it works. And of course, you've spoken about the price as well. But yeah, by the time they get to that point, you will probably be, and most of the time, no doubt, are streets ahead of what the other agents have done. And
yeah, sorry. I was going to just say that I think we should focus on, if you've asked the right questions to the vendor, you'll know what to focus on with your presentation. And I think focusing on 2 or 3 things that, no point telling them that we're on Rightmove or we're on Zoopla or we're tech, you know, because everybody's on Rightmove, everybody's on, you know, those are not differentials. Might be doing the viewings as part of the package, and maybe, you know, the vendor's not obliged to do the viewings. Open days are big things. A lot of agents don't talk about open to view days. You know, sometimes you got vendors with young kids, so the fact that you're going to do viewings back to back, the viewings on three separate days for an hour, which basically means the vendor isn't going to be pulled here, there, and everywhere by doing viewings. You're going to structure them, make it easy for them with their young children. Basic stuff, but we'll think, oh, that agent's going to do it in that way to help me. So, you know, I think there's just focus on a few little differentials is definitely worth doing.
Yeah, very much so. Putting that client first and thinking about their needs and their wants. You mentioned about, you know, again, taking your shoes off. Absolutely. And I've had tradespeople and etc., different people turning up, and I sometimes don't feel like I'm confident enough to say, can you take your shoes off, please? So if they don't ask the question, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same, that they'll allow someone to walk around their house with their shoes on and feel really uncomfortable about it. You know, so just putting that client front and center in your mind and really caring about them is clearly very important to you. And from what I'm hearing, kind of runs through everything you do, mentioning as well about focusing on their wants and what they need, and matching those wants and needs to the services that you can provide, also extremely valuable as well. We don't want a situation where someone's kind of turning up and giving every single part of the process that they provide. That's not going to be relevant to the client and probably bore them to death. So just focusing in and understanding what they want. I guess you get a lot of that information from those conversations you have before the appraisal.
Yeah, well, I think that if you can do the pre-appraisal right and find out, you know, why they're looking to move, when they're looking to move, what's important to them about the move, then, you know, is it speed of sale? Have they found a property that they don't want to miss out on? You know, all these sorts of things when it comes down to price and where you're pricing something. Does every vendor? We all think every vendor wants the absolute top price for their property. I've just sold one over the weekend, 15 viewings on a 4-bedroom detached, sold for the asking price within a day. But the vendor wanted, she turned around to me on the valuation and said, I don't want any, in her words, BS given to me. I need to move by then. I need to go to Liverpool by then. How do you get me there? How do you structure it, value to do it? And other agents have been out to the property and told her more money. But they probably didn't listen to the fact that, yes, they were quoting better money for her, but wouldn't get her to where she wanted by a certain day. So listen to your client.
Brilliant. Ask the questions, listen to the answers, and then find your services that match those vendors' needs, which is, definitely coming through. Excellent. Well, Paul, thanks so much for that. I've got 3 wrap-up questions for you.
Go on then.
First one is, if you could make a change in what you're doing, one thing, what would you change? What would you implement tomorrow?
Well, I'm actually doing this at the moment. One thing I don't do is I don't present anything to the client. I leave them a pack at the end and things, but I don't actually have a tablet or something that can show them, whether it's one of my video tours or one of this or that, the other. And why is that? Because I've always worked on the basis of the conversation over something digital presented in front of them to look at. But I do think, for me, that that's something that for certain clients that could work and needs to work. So yeah, I've literally just ordered, well, I've been on eBay and bought one on Sunday. They moved around the valuations, etc. So yeah, that's the little bit of a change I'm going to do. It's not going to take over my valuations, but it's going to be used in addition to the valuations.
Okay, good stuff. Next one. Is there one thing you'd recommend out to the network not to do, one mistake to avoid when we're talking about appraisals and converting them?
If there's one thing I wouldn't do, don't ramble. Get to the point with the client. I think clients can see through people just rambling on and on and on and on. So I think you need to be careful in doing that. And I think know your market, know your properties. You can be a really nice person and think, oh, do you know what? He was lovely. I really liked him. But he couldn't show me any properties that he sold in the area. He couldn't show me any comparables of where my house sits on a value. He didn't know the roads. I didn't know the local schools. So as much as you can, be a local expert, because they will buy into your knowledge. And if you haven't got the knowledge and you're not showing that knowledge, then they'll see through it. And it will cost you at the end of the day.
Got it. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Absolutely. And the final one, what is your overall focus for 2026?
What's my overall focus for 2026? Basically twofold. So we've got a lettings business as well, which we do want to grow. Fees are a big thing. And Cleckheaton, for those that don't know where we are, we're not a high valued area, which is perfectly fine. And my fees are reasonable. And what I'm talking about that is, just to put some meat on the bone, this might sort of shock people as in the really low, but our average fee is about 2,200 quid, 2,300 quid plus VAT. Our average house price, I don't actually know what it is, to be honest with you, but it's a 3-bed semi is about 230, 240, that sort of area. So we're roughly about 1%. That's that. I would like to get that up. I was talking to some people at the conference, and I think it's a balance, because I know EweMove is very much about fees, and get, charge this and charge, which I understand, value yourself, which I get. But you also need boards, and you also need properties out there, because board breeds boards, get boards up, and then you can have viewings on the back of those properties, and those viewings will result in other valuations and sales, etc. So just all I would say judge your market in that respect. Get your boards up, keep your fees at a good level. And when it comes to fees, from my point of view, I'm trying to focus on service, and for those vendors that I'm going out that I know will use me because of our services, then charge a better fee this year. That's probably my downfall, is I could charge 1.5% or 1.25 plus VAT. I know I'll get it at 1% plus VAT. Do I want to risk saying to the client 1.5%, etc.? And that's that's for me to work on myself, in terms of just making sure that I value what I do and charge a better fee for it. My fees have been going up every year, and they're still going up now, and they're great. They're really good this year compared to last year, but I want them to keep going.
Brilliant. Got it. Well, thank you very much for that. Yeah, I mean, most of the battle is knowing where you want to improve your business and what area you want to do that in. And then obviously the next part is moving forward to that. So it certainly sounds like you've got a plan of action there, and definitely I'm sure you're worth whatever fee you feel in the end getting to. Absolutely, with all the results you've had so far. So really good luck with that. Paul, congratulations again for your well-deserved win at the awards. Absolutely fantastic news. Thank you so much for your time imparting all this information out to the network. There's been some really great stuff in there. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the year.
Thanks, Dan.